This week, Snuffed Out trade a hellcamp for 2 titans. Panfam continue to clear enemy structures from Venal. Bjorn Bee takes on the high-sec POCO magnates. The initiative maintain pressure on FI.RE coalition and test in Feythabolis. Cloud Ring residents settle in and claim a notable Fortizar defense, and the Nalvula Fortizars in Parchment make the news again. Hello pod people, I'm Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online update. Welcome back. So another super busy week in New Eden. I've been really busy myself this week, so hopefully I've kind of caught everything. If I've missed something out from the news, then please accept my apologies and do get in contact with me in Discord and remind me, and I'll try and catch up with it next week. So before we jump in with all of the headlines that I mentioned earlier, let's announce the winners of the Scope Syndication skins, which at the moment is the Venture skin. So from the 18th of January episode, Paolo H. Patel came through. And from last week's episode, Trips Arnok. So congratulations to these 2 winners. And Salmon Muncher, that is your YouTube name, you've still not come forward to claim your Venture skin from last week's prize draw. So please get in touch with me through my Discord, just DM me directly, and the link to the Discord is in the description below. All right, so let's just get straight into it. So jump up into my box. We have the map in front of us. Let me make sure my pen is at the ready. I didn't check it beforehand. Yeah, it looks good. So we are going to be going to Vale of the Silent, which is home to Fraternity, which are part of Winter Coalition. And it's also going to have a bit of a knock-on effect actually in Lone Trek, which we'll cover later. I was going to go down to the Forge there, but we kind of made a little detour. But anyway, right, so the big news is that Snuffed Out dropped some Dread Bomb on some Titans. Now, this isn't new. These are the 2 Titans that died, and I will give you the whole story of this in a minute. So we had an Erebus that was destroyed, and then an Avatar. Now the key thing to note is that these happened literally 5 minutes before downtime. So it's about 10 minutes before downtime, give or take, that these Titans dropped in and were destroyed. So there is a video for this. I will link it in the description below. So essentially what happened is we had a Nyx, a Fraternity Nyx, walk down to the gate and get dropped on by some Rogue Capel dreadnoughts. Now, from the point of view of Fraternity, this looked extremely bizarre and extremely fishy. So that this time they were kind of prepared. So before, when Snuffed Out have done Dread Bombs just before downtime, they've normally managed to get out. But this time around, they kind of smelt a trap, and so they just called for loads of dictors immediately. And you can see this is like already getting super bubbled. Also, good spot here, I don't know if you can see this, but there's bubbles on the undock there from 2 Hicks from Snuffed Out, who basically stopped stuff from warping down off of grid. So that was a really, really good move from Snuffed Out. But the end result, though, is that this fight went on all the way till downtime. Now, this is where things started to get a little bit awkward. So if we have a look at the battle report, you can see that at the moment it's very much in Snuffed Out's favor. So we have the 2 Titans, the 2 Titans that died. Let me start it again. So the Erebus and the Avatar. So essentially what happened here is the Nyx, which belonged to Looney Bin, went down to the gate, and the Erebus went down to defend it. Now, this Avatar decided to join in, and I think it got fleet warped, if I'm correct. So it didn't flag exempt or something went wrong, and it ended up getting pulled down. Oh, sorry, the Erebus got fleet warped. That's right. So the Erebus got fleet warped down to the grid, and then the Avatar decided to kind of just YOLO in after it. So that's how these kind of 2 Avatars got destroyed. There was also a Nyx that got destroyed as well, as you can see down here. So the end result is 289 billion lost to Fraternity versus 63 billion lost to Snuffed Out. So you think, okay, we're all good, right? But the situation that happened here is that, like I mentioned, the gate got super bubbled. The dreads got super bubbled. And I actually have a live feed that I can show you right now. So this is at 17:38. On Monday, the 31st of January. This is a live feed of the grid. So if I get my pen up, the gate is just here. And then obviously this is where kind of all the dreads were logged out before downtime. And then over on the right here, you can see we have the Keepstar and the distance is about 2,000 kilometers to the bubbles. And essentially, Fraternity have been maintaining these bubbles constantly since this all happened, which was at downtime on Friday the 28th. And Snuffed Out decided not to log back in. So this has now created a situation where Fraternity have created this hellcamp. So let me see if I can get back to my screen. There we go. And as a consequence of this, over the next 2 days or 2.5 days, so that was on Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, there have been multiple attempts from Snuffed Out to try and break out these dreadnoughts, because there are approximately 85 to 90 dreadnoughts still logged out that haven't been able to log back in because of all these bubbles. Now, if you take a normal fit for Snuffed Out for a rev at around 8 to 9 billion, we're looking at about 700 billion of ships currently logged out that are unable to log in because of this huge hell camp and bubble camp. And every time that it looks like Fraternity are going to, Snuffed Out are going to try and come and save their dreads, then all the supers and carriers undock from the Keepstar and just sending down loads of fighters, and obviously loads of Union fleets have formed up. Now, I have battle reports over the 3 days, so this is on the Friday, and as you can see, the initiative decided to come and help out Snuffed Out. So they've actually been forming with Snuffed Out, and in fact on one of them I actually saw a Snuffed Out Sino be lit, and the initiative jumped through that Sino, so that definitely shows they are working in cahoots together. So I think from the initiative's point of view is they just want to make things difficult for Fraternity. So it's not necessarily a love for Snuffed Out, because obviously Snuffed Out do hit the Imperium as well, but more the initiative just seeing it as a chance to kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, something along those lines. But anyway, so as you can see here, Pandemic Horde do show up on these, but they haven't actually been actively sort of helping Snuffed Out to get out. But simply they've just been going through 4-H as they often come on roams, etc. So obviously I'm just doing throughout the day kind of battle reports here. So some Apostles were logged in to help some Tempest fleet issues that came in from Snuffed Out, and unfortunately the Apostles died and none of the dreads were able to get out. And then on the Saturday we saw the same thing again, so always Munions from the initiative, and then either Tempest fleet issues or legions from Snuffed Out, which are kind of their two main doctrines in terms of subcaps that they like to use. And then as you can see once again, so we had let me just go back to the other one. So on Friday there was 60 billion to 38 billion, and then on the Saturday we went 78 billion to 46 billion, but at the same time, don't forget, we still got this 800, 900 billion of dreads that are logged off, and then it kind of just all settled down on Sunday, with Fraternity taking more losses on that particular day. And yeah, so the legions are obviously a lot more tanky than they seem to survive a lot better than Tempest fleet issues. I don't know what the Loki fleet was doing there from Pandemic Horde. I wasn't kind of on the ball with that one. But anyway, so that kind of gives you an idea of what's been going on. And so for the time being, this bubble camp is staying in place. Now, things may change in a few days' time, and I will come to that towards the end of the episode. There's some stuff that's happening in Parchment, and it may relate to what's happening with this bubble camp. Right, so I think you're pretty much up to date on all of that. Oh yes, and the other thing as well is that Fraternity believe that the Nyx, as I understand the Nyx, let me go all the way to the bottom, sorry. The Nyx that was the original Nyx that walked down to the gate belonged to the Looney Bin, and the Looney Bin were kicked out almost immediately after downtime, as they believe that was a bait Nyx to create the situation that arose. Also, I think I may get the pronunciation wrong, it's Chiang Chen. Were kicked as well. I believe Fraternity, it's my understanding, Fraternity believe that this corporation may have been associated to Snuffed Out, and so therefore it's been kicked as well. So both of those corporations have now left Fraternity. Okay, so I've had to add this extra bit of footage in as I finished filming early evening on Monday the 31st, and went off to the shops, had to check in all my footage was okay, came back from the shops and Snuffed Out had attempted another breakout attempt. So here we go. This is what happened. So let's put up the battle report. Essentially, this time things were a little bit more involved, shall we say. So it started around 1900, and basically Fraternity got wind that lots of different alliances were getting pings, and it gave them the opportunity to get prepared in advance. So what happened was Fraternity, or Winterco as a whole, were able to do their own backphones as well and call in some help, which is in this particular case Northern Coalition, Pandemic Legion, and Test Alliance Please Ignore. And then on the Snuffed Out side, we had the Initiative, we had Brave, we had Greater Trash Community, aka we formed Volta and Friends. We had Red Menace Coalition, all show up. Siberian Squad showed up as well, and some random Drakes, which I can't work out where they came from. It's like a whole mix of people. So the thing was that by the time these fleets had arrived, Fraternity had managed to undock 100 supers. So they had 100 supers on the Keep Stars, about another 45, 50 carriers or so, and it gave them the time to get down, to get the fighters down to the gate. On top of that, the Munins, there was 3 Munin fleets from Fraternity / Winterco, 2 from the EN time zone, and then 1 from the Chinese time zone. So we had 3 Munin fleets from Winterco. NC Dot arrived in some Munins as well and brought some sniping Nagas. Pandemic Legion showed up in some Serbs. And then Init, Snuffed Out, Brave, Great Trash Community, and Red Menace Coalition all came in Munins as well. And then Siberian Squad came in Ishtars. So the Initiative and Snuff jumped through the gate, and then the brawl kind of started, and then all the other groups kind of bowled in as well and got involved. And as you can see from this massive battle report here, there were a lot of people involved, and it was primarily trying to basically reduce the other side's ability to do damage in terms of Munins. The Munins were kind of the big numbers. Obviously, the big difference here was that Winterco had the benefit of fighters on their side, and even though the numbers were fairly evenly matched, so if I grab my pen, let me see if I can get my pen working. There we go. Right, so on this is my pen working? No, hang on, one more try. This is an addendum. There we go. So that's Team A, which were the defenders, and this was the group that were trying to help Snuffed Out get their dreadnoughts out of the bubbles. And so this fight kind of broke out, and then at one point, NC Dot actually got caught on a ping, their Munin fleet, and then we saw Snuffed Out and the Initiative kind of warp up there, and I think Brave warped in after them as well to try and basically take out this NC Dot fleet. It looks like they had the FC kind of webbed and pointed, although most of the NC pilots did manage to warp to the Keep Star. Then what happened was that the Initiative and Snuffed Out walked back down to the bubbles, but I think they kind of put themselves in a bad position because they were very close to all the fighters, and they became overwhelmed by these fighters, just literally just blobbed them completely. And you could see them getting slowly but surely all picked off, all these Munins getting picked off, by which point they disengaged. So this isn't over, none of the dreads got out, all of the dreads are still stuck in the bubbles. So, or stuck, logged off, should I say. Right, so back to our regular programming. All right, so let's, then on top of that, then there's more, because whilst this is all going on, in Lone Trek, right here, in the system of Hackanen, a couple of weeks ago, Snuffed Out were able to anchor a Fortizar there, and for whatever reason, Fraternity and Winter Coalition weren't able to get round to the timer, and it actually managed to anchor. So Fraternity have used this as an opportunity to hit the structure, and this structure is now in Hull, and by the time this episode airs, in fact the very minute that this episode airs, it will be in its final timer, and I would imagine that Fraternity and Winterco are going to show up for this. The thing to remember as well is that Snuffed Out are not the biggest alliance, and they have a lot of vaults, you know, where they're multi-box, multiple tunes, especially when it comes to their dread bombs. And so you need to be aware that this is actually seriously affecting Snuffed Out's ability to kind of fight, because they're losing a lot of tunes within their alliance at the moment that are tied up in these bubbles. So that's another reason why, Snuffed Out want to not only get these dreads out, but they want to get the characters back so they can be at like peak efficiency. So something else to be aware of there. So I hope so. We'll see what happens with that structure. Like I said, that's going to be most likely attacked as the timer comes out during the airing of this episode. Right, so then we're going to go over to Venol. So if you remember with Venol up here, I mentioned last week that basically Panfam wanted to clear out the enemy structures that were in Venol. So Venol's NPC space is Garista's NPC space. So there's no sov holding here. And a number of groups have been here over the years. Most recently it's been Boss, Rogue Capel, Arcos Core, Out of Sight as some of the groups that have been in here and use this to kind of use Black Ops to go and attack into Branch, into Tenal, into Tribute, Peregrine Falls. It can reach into a kind of a lot of Declan as well. So it can reach into a lot of different areas. And so therefore, Panfam, most notably NC Dot, have been trying to clear out the structures. Now, some progress has been made on this. So Out of Sight had a Fortizar in 65V-RH, which was destroyed, and that was destroyed uncontested. Did I have a battle report for... No, I must have... let me see. Let me just double check. There we go. So yeah, this was the one for 65V, which is the Out of Sight Fortizar. And like I said, it was destroyed uncontested. And then there was a fight in a GVZ-1W or GVZ-1W, depending on what side of the pond you're on. And this one, Northern Coalition showed up along with Test Alliance. So Test Alliance have been helping Panfam on this. So the main three groups in Panfam that have been involved in this have been Northern Coalition, Pandemic Legion, and Slice, Solaris Estonium. And then Test Alliance has been showing up as well. Fraternity have been showing up but primarily to help Northern Coalition defend their own structures there or to attack structures that are not boss. They've been very notable and they've not been showing up for attacking boss structures. And it's my understanding from what I see here that there is clearly some agreement here between Fraternity and boss. Now, the interesting thing here though is Brave. So Brave have been much more active this week and they've had a couple of notable instances. This is the first. Where they showed up to help Boss defend their structure. And then we also had Hero Coalition as well come up, who are part of Wrecking Crew, and then kind of the usual Venal crew, so Dock Workers, Rogue Capel, Dread Bomb's also showing up. Looks like Dread Bomb looks like they may be leaving Wrecking Crew. I haven't had official confirmation of that yet, but it looks like they're going to be doing their own thing, and as soon as I have something notable there, I will mention it. Also Psychotic Tendencies as well, I didn't mention. Another group that have been very active in Venal. And then Reform Volta, who are over in Declan, have also decided to come and help Boss and defend their structures. So obviously the biggest value of the loss there was the Fortizar, but numbers were pretty even on that fight. So that was always a good sign when you get fairly even numbers. Now coming back to the map though, so things have definitely changed. So I think there is a boss fort that's unanchoring. I can't remember where it is. I think it's 6NJ. But I think Boss tried to unanchor this Fortizar, but it got hit. And that's now in Hull Timer. That's coming out on Wednesday, the 2nd of February, late EU. And then now the main boss Fortizar, which is in QSJ-FW, is also hit its armor timer. And this comes out tonight. But this will be over by the time this is aired. So that's tonight at 23:54, Monday, the 31st of January. And we'll see if that gets pushed into its final timer. But it does look like Panfam are making very good progress in removing boss from Venol and also other Fortizars and large structures. Okay, so then let's move on. Okay, so the next big piece of news I have is actually related to HiSec and the Forge. And not just anywhere in the Forge, we're talking about Jita. So Bjorn Bee is a very, very well-known streamer on Twitch. He's been doing FCing for years. He's been doing lots of roams into nullsec, a lot of solo PvP as well. And he decided to try and do something completely different. So what he did is he created a corporation called 10.K. Now, the reason why it's called 10.K is because when we had all the mining changes, industry changes, Bjorn Bee took a look at this and went, I wonder how POCOs kind of fit into this and PI will fit into this. And it came to his attention that there's about 10,000 POCOs in HiSec, and hence the name 10.k. And on top of this, he also realized there was a group called Omega and Friends Media Labs who seem to own a very large percentage of these POCOs. And so he created his corporation specifically to declare war on Omega and Friends Media Labs and to take over their POCOs. So essentially, Bjorn Bee is getting into the POCO business. Now, why do I mention all this? Well, this is very, very good news for anybody that's in HiSec that wants wars out of Jita. So if you've got alts and stuff like that, there is now potentially going to be some big content coming your way, but it's going to be 2 weeks away. And I'll explain why. So Bjorn Bee started creating his corporation a couple of weeks ago, and you see it kind of reached about 200 members. And then it's now just jumped again to close to 400, but I'll explain why that is in a minute. So first up, we have the VAS report. So 10.k with Bjorn Bee started going out and hitting these various POCOs, and they had like a proper day of it. As you can see, they went from like 1600 to 2030. So pretty long fleet. That's like 4 hours. 4.5 hours, and they started shooting POCOs and killing some POCOs, as you can see here, and making some progress. And they thought, okay, we're off to a good start here. Now, Omega and Media Labs do not have their own militia, so to speak, and so they have been using war decks and using allies. So Bjorn Bee has war decked the Omega Media Labs, and as a defender, the Omega and Media Labs can bring in allies. In this case, we have Wrecking Machine, we have Black Flag, we have Wholesale, Absolute Will, I definitely know as well. I don't know about, I think obviously Jita Holding Inc. is showing up here, so I assume they're on there. But these are the main groups. So Wrecking Machine and Black Flag are mercenary groups in HiSec. Wholesale Operations, I think, are wormholers, but I may be wrong on that. And so that's kind of the situation that we've got. So then, the way HiSec mechanics work is you have to have a headquarters, and the headquarters for 10.k is in New Caldari. So the first thing that happened is that the mercenaries went off and hit the Astra House that belonged to 10.k. And this is for the armor timer. And as you can see, things didn't work out anywhere near as well for Bjorn Bee this time round, even though the numbers were fairly similar. And Bjorn Bee himself stated, that he's getting up to speed with HiSec mechanics. Obviously you don't have bubbles, you don't have PDS. As I pointed out, I tried to kind of cover the hull timer, and I was going, I wonder if the Feroxes have got smart bombs on them, because Bjorn Bee brought Feroxes, Vexers, and then someone reminded me that there are no smart bombs in HiSec. So not just Bjorn Bee that suffers, it's me as well. So we had this one, and then the next one that happened was the hull timer, and then that turned into even more of a whelp, as you can see here, as the Astra House was destroyed, and the numbers were overwhelming in the favor of the defenders. So Wrecking Machine, Black Flag, etc. And also then we had another war deck as well, War Deckers Allies, War Police Segway Division, which is a great name for a corporation there. So what does this mean? So the Astra House got destroyed. Now, the way that HiSec mechanics work is that 10.k cannot declare a war against Omega Media Labs for 2 weeks. So Bjorn Bee is using this time to try and recruit more and to then go back into the fold. Now, he's said as well that he's going into this for the long term. So he wants to make this an ongoing thing, that it's given him some purpose and a drive. And so he is very much focused on this. So if you have alts, or if you're a new bro and you want to get involved with this, then either 10.k if you want to be on Bjorn Bee's side. If you want to be on the defending side, then Wrecking Machine and Black Flag are the two names that immediately spring to mind. If not, just go into game, look up 10.k, look up at the wars, or look up, in fact, Omega and Media Labs. Get in touch with those guys, and they will probably point you in the right direction. So there you go. So that's kind of what's happening in HiSec, and hopefully this will be going on for quite a while. And right now it's all happening within 1 or 2 jumps of Jita, so it makes it really, really good for people to be able to get involved with this. Okay, so Now what we're going to do is, before we go and head off to the south, we are going to do the giveaway. So the giveaway is still the Venture Scope Syndication skin. Here it is right there, looking gorgeous as always. And this is probably the last week that I will be giving it away. Maybe I'll have one more to give away on Friday. So if you want your Venture Scope Syndication skin, the way you do it is you have to put a comment in the YouTube's comments down below with a keyword of my choosing. And the keyword this week, unsurprisingly, is going to be bubble. So you've got to make up a sentence with the word bubble, pop it in the comments below. Please do so before 1800 UTC on Friday the 4th of February. I then do the draws sometime on Saturday, so I generally recommend either Saturday night or Sunday during the day. Check your YouTube comments, see if you've won, and if so, then get in touch with me through my Discord. Link in the description below. All right, so there you go. Good luck with that. All right, now back to Dotlan, and we're going to go over and talk quickly about Scalding Pass. So Triumvirate have deployed to Curse. I think CVA deployed with them. I did see CVA show up on a battle report, and they've been kind of pushing into Scalding Pass and harassing Fire. Now, earlier in the week, Triumvirate actually managed to take pretty much this whole constellation. It looks like Bright Side of Death and Valkyrie Alliance, who are Fire Coalition, have now managed to secure it back. But as you can see, Curse kind of projects, into Scalding Pass quite heavily. So there's lots of entry points into Scalding Pass. So it makes it very easy to base out a Curse, because obviously there's NPC stations there as well. So it's a great place for deployment if you want to kind of harass into Scalding Pass, which is what we're seeing here. And that's kind of ongoing. Now, I did have some battle reports, but I can't remember what I did with them. But the main thing is that, content is being generated there. All right, so I then also need to talk about Tenerifis. I forgot to mention this last week, so I'm going to mention it now. We've got some new groups that have appeared. So obviously, the Dracares have managed to continue to secure these 4 systems, much to Fire's annoyance, because they really wanted to get the whole region. But we have some new groups, and the first one is up here, called POT. And it's actually called Potentially Dangerous. And I thought this was a brilliant name, because Potentially Dangerous are the new bro organization of Flying Dangerous. So Flying Dangerous being the group in purple here that hold all these systems. So hence why they're kind of just next door. So Potentially Dangerous are now the new bro group of Flying Dangerous. Then we have another group here called Absolute Will. Now Absolute Will have taken over quite a lot of systems. I have now found out that Absolute Will, if I can find the thing here, are actually a subgroup of Absolute, what's the name? I've forgotten. It's on the battle report. Let me see. Which one is it? There's one of these. Absolute Will. So we've got Absolute Will, and they have Absolute Order, is it? I can't remember. I'll just link it right here. There we go, just there. That's the name of the high-sec group with which this is associated. So they basically started moving into nullsec as well, and they are basically doing that with Fire Coalition. So I kind of just lost the plot with that one. I'm normally so well organized, and I just didn't make a note of it. It's still in my last week's notes. All right, so let's move on from that before I embarrass myself even more. Okay, so then we're going to go over to Feythabolis. So in Feythabolis, the situation we've got here is primarily the initiatives. The initiative are pushing into Feythabolis, using it to generate plenty of content. I think they're the groups that are kind of harassing Moonfire up here in terms of creating soft timers. There have been fights over the iHub. In fact, one of the fights started off with actually test reinforcing a pause, which then led to a whole bunch of stuff going beyond there. So this was the fight. And it started off with test reinforcing a pause. Then the initiative formed. Then test called for reinforcements. Legion of Death showed up. Pandemic Horde showed up. And then Goon Swarm then showed up towards the end of the fight as well, along with Red Menace Coalition. They showed up as well. And as a consequence of this, Fire had to then pull back because they basically ended up in a position where they didn't feel they could hold the fight anymore. And so Initiative then brought in faxes to then take the iHub in TRO7-S or 07-S. And what it does is it gives them projection into Feythabolis. There's also been some skirmishes over here in AZN-2, also over SOV. And then most notably over here we have NX5W-U, where there is a Legion of Death Fortizar, but which tests are based out of and where they've been doing their deployment from. And what we've seen with the initiative in the last few days is they've been pushing hard in terms of pushing buttons of Fire Coalition. If I actually bring them up here, if we go to Ansiblexes, you can see here that just in one day they hit like 4 jump gates in Feythabolis and 1 in Immensia. And so they're really kind of pushing hard to generate some content out of Fire Coalition. Okay, then just very quickly in Impasse, I just want to point it out. It was kind of just something I noticed in passing. It's already gone, but Pandemic Horde actually took an iHub in U3SQ-X from Esports Butopia. It's been taken back, so I assume that was a meme thing or just for the lols, whatever it was. It just I saw Pandemic Horde appear there very briefly, but clearly they were just doing it for the lols. Right, now, we always have, sometimes we have these unfortunate deaths. The unfortunate death this week is a shuttle. This shuttle was a Council diplomatic shuttle in Stain, and it belonged to Reload, Pilot and Reloaded. And unfortunately, they decided to take all of their blueprints in a shuttle through NPC nullsec, and a Macarial with smart bombs took it out. And the real tragedy of this is not only the value, obviously 68 billions worth of blueprints, not all of them are even counted on here, but it's also, don't forget, the blueprints are researched. So there has been potentially weeks, maybe months, maybe years of blueprint research that has gone down the drain. And, you know, for things like Archons and stuff like that, you know, battleships and carriers and things, and I can see a Revelation one there as well. Oof. You know, the time it takes to research these blueprints is nuts. So really feel for that pilot on this one. That was unfortunately not the right choice to fly around with all of your blueprints. I think if you've got 68 billion of blueprints, you buy a jump freighter. You know, they cost 10, 15 billion, but you know, for the amount of time that, you know, you've put into the research, well, you get where I'm going with this. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to, very quickly, Paragon Soul. So all the way down here, Paragon Soul. I talked about Out of the Blue last week, who are Vapor, and I thought that they might be associated to Red Menace Coalition, simply because obviously this was originally owned by Army of Mango, who are now long gone, and Red Menace Coalition have taken over Army of Mango space. But I've now found out that Out of the Blue are not part of Red Menace Coalition, but they do share common goals. In other words, they like to fight fire. So they are kind of living side by side with common goals, but that's it. There is no actual official kind of grouping of these entities. Okay, then another quick update, the Marshal. Last week I talked about this, the Marshal that destroyed with all kind of the bling mods and all the abyssal mods. The pilot actually got in touch and said that the actual final value of this Marshal was close to 40 billion ISK, if you take into account the abyssal mods, which is oof. The golem that I pointed out, which I thought was involved with this, I thought it was being welled by the Pandemic Horde, as I've been told it wasn't, so there we go. So don't worry, the golem wasn't the main story anyway, the Marshal was, and apparently it's already been replaced, so there you go. Quick little update there on the Marshal. All right, so now we're going to go over to Cloud Ring. So Cloud Ring, we had 2 new groups kind of move in recently. We had Shadow Ultimatum over this side, and then we had Slow Children at Play. So they kind of took this one constellation and they've kind of now expanded and got themselves a second constellation. So there's also another group down here called Red Dwarf Stars, who have 3 systems. I don't know anything about them, and I will try and find out a little bit more about these guys. But there was a fight that took place in O-ZXUV, and it was notable for 2 reasons. Let me see if I can find the right battle report. I think it's going to be this one. There we go. All right, so what we had is we had a Fortizar that belonged to Shadow Ultimatum, who holds SOV there, which was in its hull timer. and they called for help, and the people that showed up to help were Brave Collective. And as you can see from this battle report, Snuffed Out are really having a tough week. So 4 billion lost to Brave and Shadow Ultimatum and Stay Feral, the network, Brave United for and Royal Amar Institute, versus Snuffed Out and Capital Fusion. Capital Fusion are working a lot with Snuffed Out, having lost 61 billion. So, the main thing that happened here is obviously they were outnumbered. Snuffed Out were heavily outnumbered, as you can see. And most of these 163 ships, there was a lot of Munins. A lot of Munins means a lot of alpha. And when I had a quick look at the timeline, it looks like the legions were, the Guardians were taken out pretty early, by the Munins. They're not going to survive that many Munins. And then what happened is that Snuffed Out decided to drop an Apostle to provide the reps, obviously from the Guardians being missing. And then Revelation Horde Reds to kind of make up for the lower numbers that they had. Unfortunately, this is where Snuffed Out made a mistake. Now, Snuffed Out don't often make mistakes, but the mistake that they made here is this Fortizar was cap fit. And that turned out to be very bad news for these capitals. And as you can see, the Apostle here, the Fortizar just went nom-nom on the Apostle, doing 96.9% of damage to it and kind of just removing it from the grid. And then when I looked at the other revs, it was between 10 and 50% worth of damage was done by that Fortizar. So unfortunately, the mistake they made was dropping caps on a grid within reach of this Fortizar. And that they paid the price of that with the loss that we saw there. But good job of Brave on that one. Good to see Brave out and about as well, doing stuff. I haven't talked about Brave much recently. They've been just leaving them to do their rebuilding in Pure Blind, and clearly it's getting to the point now where they're looking to expand a little bit more. So we've seen them in Venal, we've seen them in Cloud Ring, so they're traveling about. So that's all good stuff. All right, so we're going to finish off with Parchment. So let's go to Parchment. As you know, if you're a regular of the show, in Parchment, in the system of Nalvula, we have been having a tit-for-tat between the single Fraternity Fortizar and the two Rote Capel Fortizars, and there's a couple of Astro Houses there as well that belong to Rote. Basically, both of these groups have been trying to remove each other's structures from Nalvula. Pochven meaning that any structures that are destroyed that are upwell structures, that's Astro Houses, Fortizars, Asbels, etc. If they're removed, they can never be replaced. And so these structures have been causing loads of problems in terms of Black Ops operations for Fraternity and Winterco, and so they feel that if the Rogue Capel are working out of stations, they can handle that a lot better. As a consequence of this, this time things are slightly different because all of the structures belonging to Rogue Capel have now been put into Armor Timer. So they've all been reinforced, and the reason for doing it now is because Wednesday the 2nd of February is Chinese New Year. And so this means that the Chinese time zone players of Fraternity, of which there are many, will have the day off. And all the Rogue Capel structures are in US time zone, which means they come out after midnight UTC. So generally Chinese time zone, if I remember correctly, is 8 hours ahead of UTC. So these timers will be coming out from about 8 o'clock in the morning in Chinese time zone. Obviously they got the day off because it is a holiday. And so the plan is to hit these structures over the next couple of days and try and finally once and for all remove the Rogue Capel structures from Nalvula. So there you go. Also last week I talked about a fight that happened in Otanuomi in Pochven. I said I had no idea what was going on here. Apparently the Paladins were doing sights and then basically they got dropped by Snuffed Out and Rogue Capel. So that's what happened there. Okay, then had a quick look at ratting kills. Whaling kills, and 9 raw calls and 4 ratting supers, so numbers are still very low there. I don't think we'll ever see the days of having like 30, 40 raw calls dying a week now, as they're primarily used just for bushing, so you don't have like 3 or 4 on grid like we used to have. And then only 4 ratting supers, so obviously the ratting supers are still super expensive, pardon the pun there, and yeah, so we're not seeing many ratting supers. I think all the ones that could afford to to use them for ratting have now lost them, and they're not being replaced. All right, so that's it for me this week. Hopefully a little bit shorter than usual. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, and I will either see you on my Twitch show on Friday at 2000 UTC, or I'll see you here again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.